That's my bad ear. They're both bad now. Hello and welcome. I'm Daddy. Stop it. Let's just take a moment of silence. When I think about Bill, there's...
You got this, bud.
I got this. Okay, I'll just get mad at myself and I'll get it. I've never not known Bill Shore. I was born in 1963, and there's always been a Bill Shore. My dad was Dean Hingley, and he was a pipeliner friend of Bill's. And there were times that the airplane would buzz the farm. There were times that he would teach us great songs like The Monkey and the Baboon. And I've heard every version of Old Dan Tucker that you could ever imagine, and it's inappropriate to do that here. But Bill was a special person in every way to everyone that's here. I don't think Bill knew a stranger. It didn't matter if you were in Mexico, they became his friend. And that was just Willis Shore. So we're here to memorialize him, honor him, and celebrate his life. And I'd like to start this off by starting it off with, he was the boy that left home at 14 years old with 31 cents in his pocket and 2 feet on the ground. And he never looked back. He lived life completely, right to the very end. I'd like to ask and thank the family for coming from far distances, Whitehorse, Ontario, the island, Saskatchewan. Cannot forget old Saskatchewan. Great place. Alberta. They've come from everywhere. And if you notice, the first 3 rows of this hall on all sides, the center is all the Shore family. And many of us feel like we're family. So if Troy, Bill's son, could come up and start us off, it would be great. Thank you.
I got notes. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I know Dad would appreciate it. Last time I was in this hall, it was the Fellers Heights Hall, and we entered in that end. There might have been a couple of drinks. Things going on. Anyways, so I'm going to give you some of the facts first, and then some of the Dad's stories. And so we lost Dad this year, August 24th. 6 weeks ago today, he was 9 days away from his 91st birthday. He was born in, the Saskatchewan people are going to make noise if we don't say this, born in Birchhill, Saskatchewan, September 3rd, 1933. So he worked all his life. He worked as a kid growing up on the farm, as everybody did in those days. when he left the farm, when he left home, he was working, like Danny said, at 14 years old. The story he told me was 10 cents, not 31 cents, so I don't know. Inflation, I think, over the years. Anyways, he always worked, and work was the one thing that he valued the most. When he was young, after leaving the farm, he would do any and all types of work. As long as he was working, he was moving ahead. When he was 18, he worked, his older brother, my Uncle Jack, Monica and Nicole are here, his daughter and granddaughter. They came up from Ontario. Don't be offended by that. They're the nice people from Ontario. Anyways, his brother called him up when he was 18 and he went to work out in Niagara Falls. Underneath Niagara Falls, they had huge tunnels, 40-foot tunnels where they do the big hydroelectric project. Took him out there and I've seen those pictures. It's quite an amazing thing. And he never ever talked about that until maybe the last 10 or 15 years. He talked about some of that stuff and come out. So when he, after that, and I can't tell you exactly when, and he started the pipelining stuff and ended up doing that the rest of his, for the rest of his life. We pipelined, we were always with him. We pipelined across Western Canada, across Ontario. He was kind enough to keep us out of Quebec, that was generous. And then we even spent years down in the United States. We were in Kentucky and Tennessee and Ohio, and when we came back from the U.S., Billy, Mitch, and I, we all had heavy Kentucky accents, and that lasted about 6 months, so that was entertaining for everybody around us. He helped a lot of people, tons and tons of people, and get started in the pipeline industry over the years. Today they would say he mentored people. Back in those days, Mitch and Billy and I called it ranting and raving, so there was some of that. So, in the end, and that to this day, my wife thanks Dad for teaching me how to rant and rave, so I'm not supposed to say that, don't tell her. In the end, he taught all of us how to work and how to value the strong work ethic. That was strong for him, and then we moved up here to Dawson Creek out in Harris, actually, in 1966. He'd already had the land. He bought some land of a quarter section. So when he wasn't pipelining, we were clearing land and breaking land up. And my personal favorite, he had us picking rocks and roots literally from the day we arrived here till 10 o'clock the night before I moved away. And that's a true story. We left him and Mom, and there was an old gravel pit on the property. And we had the last load, and they fell asleep in the truck. And Mitch and Billy and I got off, and we snuck wanted to sneak into town and have some fun, and we were about a mile and a half down the road before they finally caught us, right? So we were making a run for the border, that's what we were doing, right? So the field where the house is now, the field above the house, it always had new rocks. Every time we went, we put around a disc over it and did stuff like that. And we told Dad, I said, this has to be a gravel pit at one time. And he always laughed. But funny now, the last 5 or 8 years, he's been developing a gravel pit just above it, or trying to develop it. So I was right all those years ago. Well, my fitness program was awesome at the time. So anyways, who knew, right? So Dad, he always liked his horses. He's always had horses. We had them for as far as I can remember. So when we all got to ride, and then sometimes we got to ride more than we wanted. We were Billy, Mitch, and then myself. So he was the oldest, so he was trying to get him. He would green break a horse for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes maybe, on a good day. So they're good to go, you can ride them, right? But Billy had asthma so bad, he couldn't, horsehair and all that stuff bothered him, so I was next. I said, well, I'm not really too keen on this. And he said, not too bad, so sad, there you go. So I was the guy that broke all the horses, and needless to say, I don't have any horses today, but so we got to ride. I got to ride more than we wanted to, and I wanted to, and there was always a green horse or two that needed extra riding. I never really wanted to be a cowboy, but thanks to Dad's green horses, I got to experience way more rodeos than I should have ever in my life. So. Dad had a great sense of humor, loved to laugh, we all grew up with that sense of humor. Told some really bad dad jokes when we were kids, and I'm sad to say that as I got older, when I had kids, I told the same bad dad jokes, so I got it. It took me 35 years, but I got the joke, so. But it's not my fault. Dad taught me those jokes. He loved to talk, he loved to tell stories. He loved his bear stories where he would wrestle the black bears on purpose. Why, I don't know. And then the kids used to, our kids when they were small used to like to hear Grandpa's bear stories. Well, at least for the first 14 or 15 times, right after that. That's a general short trade, that's not just him. He took it to a new level. He was at, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years ago, he was at our house, my wife's house down in the Okanagan, and we're in Armstrong. And there was just the three of us, Carl and myself and Dad, and we're talking all night, having a couple glasses of wine and talking, and then by the end of the night, it was, probably almost midnight, and then Dad looks at Carl and he's asked if she's all right. He says, "You okay?" He says, what do you mean? He goes, "Well, you barely said anything all night." She said, "Well, I've been trying all night, but I can't get a word in edgewise. With 2 shores here telling stories." So, yes, that's true. He also taught some, let's call it discipline. And one of the, so you got kind of one warning shot, and after that, then the gloves came off, and one of my personal favorite was when we got into trouble. Usually Billy or Mitch's fault at that time. And then when Dana came along later, he was probably at fault too. But anyway, so he would reach in his pocket, take his jackknife out, flip the blade out, and go cut me a willow, which was nice, really nice. A little psychological warfare to go with the rest of it. So Billy and I would go into the bush and grab the biggest log we could drag out and try to soften it up. So he never did beat us with the big logs, which was awesome. But he'd kind of start laughing and things weren't nearly as bad. But Mitch, he wanted to please him so bad, when he'd bring out something, a $1,000 fly rod, you couldn't beat that thing. It was amazing. Right? So Mitch got a second tune, and after Billy and I got Dad away from there. So with that story, years later, Kyle, our son, he was up here visiting Dad and Cheryl, and he was about 8 or 9. I think he was about 8. Anyways, and I told him when he left, I said, "Okay, you got to listen to what Grandpa says when you go to the farm and you're around horses and you're around animals and equipment." And he wasn't around that when he was little. I said, "So when he says something, you got to pay attention so that you don't get yourself into trouble and get hurt." So he was up here, I don't know, about a week, and he calls us one day, and he was telling us, "How'd it go?" He goes, "Well, I kind of got in trouble today." I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I did something, I can't remember what it was." And he said, "Grandpa gave me his jackknife and said, 'Now go cut me a willow.'" And I said, "Well, okay, then what happened then?" He goes, "Well, when I came back with the willow," he said, "Nothing." He said, "Nothing. Grandpa said that I learned my lesson, he didn't have to use it." I said, "What the hell? Put Grandpa on the phone, I got a little something to say." I said, "Where the hell was this guy when we were kids?" I said, "Come on." So he laughed, he thought it was funny. He goes, "Oh, and I realized you can just talk to certain people." I said, hello. I said, anyways, he also had a knack for seeing the silver lining in things. When I had just turned 18, about 5 days before my high school grad, we used to race dirt bikes, and I tore up my knee. So I had a full-length leg cast right from my hip right down to my ankle, and I was lounging around in the front room for about 2 days, which was a long stretch for us. And then he came into the living room and said, "Hey, I hope your ankle's doing better." And I said, "Oh," I got smart and wiggled my ankle around and said, "Oh, it's not my ankle, it's my knee, huh?" He goes, "Oh, good, you're going to work tomorrow." So we were working on running the dozer. He said, "All you need is your right ankle to run the decelerator pedal, everything else is on your hands and your left foot." He said, "So you're good." I said, "Well," I don't think I can get up on the dozer." He said, "No, I'll get you up on the dozer, don't worry about that part." That wasn't hard. I said, "Well," "what about getting down?" He said, "We'll get you down at the end of the day." I said, "Well, what if there's a fire?" He says, "I'm pretty sure you'll have it. If you get enough incentive, you'll get yourself off of there." So he liked that because I couldn't run away from the job site. So he'd throw me up there, and 12 hours later he'd come back, and that was the job site. You're going to hear some of this today. He also had I think it's a genetic thing in the Shore family. He had the Shore gene for procrastination. Never with work. He was always good with work, but everything else, it was always, "Oh yeah, it'll be time, it'll be fine." So we're 20 miles, 18 miles out of town, and then we used to go into town to the old Crest Theater and go to see the movies. They start at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, we'd be leaving the farm, heading into Dawson Creek to go to the movie. And I think then that happened forever until I left. That was happening. I think I was 25 years old before I realized there were cartoons and previews and all that stuff in movie theater. Anyway, so Dad, he wasn't just dad to Billy, Mitch, and I, but he was like a dad to so many others over the years as well. We had a lot of fun, we had lots and lots of laughs. He taught us a lot over the years. He helped not just us, but so many others. He was always there when you needed him, everybody and anybody. When we came up at the end of August and saw him in the hospital just before he passed, when I said my goodbyes to him, I said, okay, I'm going to meet you on the other side. I said, but take my sweet friggin' time getting there, I'll tell you that right now. So. Anyways, to Dad, I'd like to say thank you for being my dad. Say hi to Mom and the boys for me.
And then along came Kane.
I guess I'll start. My name's Kane, for everybody who doesn't know me. Like I said, it's like to thank everybody for coming on behalf of my mom, and my girls, and my boy. I'm not real slick with the words like Troy, but I'm better looking, so hopefully that balances out. I always thought that you and I, Danny, we got the better deal because, you know, we got Bill, and we got the farm, and we got all the memories and experience, and we didn't get caught with them ears. And, you know, all jokes aside, I just really want to say, Troy, I'm real sorry, man. For everything that's gone on these last couple of years, it's got to be tough. I never told Mitch and Billy how much I appreciate everything they've done for me, and I should have. So, I don't know, when Bill came into my life, I was just a little boy. And, you know, he was this great, big, rootin' tootin' shooting cowboy with all this stuff. And then on top of that, I got these good stepbrothers. And at the time, Mitch was flying helicopter. And Billy was running equipment, building lawnmowers and all that. And Troy was teaching karate and doing all that. So you can imagine how inspiring that is for a little boy. And I've never told you that. What's an impact that's had on my life. And since everything that's happened in this last couple of years here, I spent a lot of time driving in my truck back and forth to work and a lot of time to reflect on things. And, you know, going through memories and everything like that. And before I get started, I try not to swear too much in my normal life, but some of this is going to be verbatim. So, just to keep it in context, there's going to be some whatever. But, you know, a story that keeps, I didn't write anything down, but I'm just going to shoot from the heart here and say a couple of things that always make me smile and stuff about how they impacted my life. So, one thing that's always come to mind in reflection on everything that's happened in the last couple of years, about 20-some years ago, I was 18 and we went to work for Marine in Creston. And there was Billy and Mitch and Willis and Bob was there, a bunch of us. And I was only 18, I was just breaking out on equipment. And it was a big important job. And there was lots of pressure, lots of people watching us and lots of stuff. And at that point, I'd only ever run hoe. I'd worked with Billy for a few years before that, and he had the privilege of being my babysitter for about 2 years prior. And then when we got to this job, I was going to be running hoe, but by the time the equipment showed up, it was a nice brand new hoe, and Billy was like, there's no way you're running that hoe, and I'm not. So he rolled me in, and I ended up, the way the dice fell is I was going to end up running dozer, and I hadn't yet, other than just on the farm and that. So now I became Mitch's responsibility. And Mitch was the straw, and for everybody who doesn't know what that means, that's Bill was the foreman, and Mitch was the straw, which was basically his right hand. And we were on a real steep mountain. We went up through the clouds and everything. It was a tough job. And for the first bit, actually, Bob was stuck babysitting me for the first 2 weeks there, and until I got our controls down and that. And then when we started working, Mitch and Billy, they had a radio, and I had the earpieces so they could talk to me and guide me through this, right? It just went on for days, if not weeks. One of them would tell me one thing, and the other one would tell me something else. And on this went, and I couldn't talk back because I only had the ears, they had the mics. And when I look back at it now, I'm almost certain that Billy was saying stuff to fuck me up just so it would fuck Mitch up. Because it fell in Mitch's lap. And, I don't know if you've worked with Mitch before or whatever, but his main thing that I've caught in shit from him time and time again is keeping your blade high. He'd always be yelling at me, get that blade out of the air, on and on and on. But then on the other hand, because he's like, I don't want you backing up, and then you got to stop and take time to set that blade down. He goes, a big speech. But then Billy talking, he's like, don't worry what he's talking about. You got to have it up in the air so you can see what your tracks are doing. But now that I know and I'm older, Billy was clearly purposely doing that to aggravate. And anyway, we're working away one day, and this had been going on. The tension was building because I was learning, I was frustrated, and I was, stressed out or whatever. And 18 years old, yeah, Mitch is, that he was just kind of breaking out in the boss seat there, so he was trying to keep everything looked after good. And Billy was just bullshit, just effing around, because I wasn't his responsibility anymore. And this went on, and finally one day, they were both battling on the mics to tell me, and it was just squealing in my ear, so I just turned it off, and I walked the dozer up to where we had a little landing, and I threw the whole rigging right through the window, and I jumped out of the cat, and I went over to him, and then we were just bickering. And Billy, I'm sure he was quite satisfied with what just happened. His mission was accomplished, and Mitch was he was pissed. And we're fighting back and forth, and I'm trying to say, well, he said this, and then we're all going like this. And then Willis, seeing what was going on, and he'd been hearing something, and he come down from about a kilometer away on that right away, and he was hot. Like, he was like a ball of dust coming down this mountain. And I knew we were all them thinking, well, we're probably pretty old to be getting a licking. But I'm sure it was on our minds. And he got over there, and he never liked to have a big scene, especially like he doesn't mind giving a shit, but when there's other people around, he just over there, and he's whispering but yelling, and he's like, I don't know what's wrong with you fucking pricks, but there's gonna be a wreck. That's when you knew it was the end. If you didn't show quit jacking around or this or that, you still had a bit of rope. But when he said there's going to be a wreck, that means it's time to open your ears, and that's it. And everybody's trying to get their 2 cents in about who's. He said, I don't give a shit. And he looked at Billy and he said, you keep your mouth shut. And he's like, you keep your blade down. And Mitch, by the end of the day, the dirt on that side better be on that fucking side. And so we stop there. Now it's awkward because we want to say something. We want to argue, but we know we're too on the edge of a licking. So, which would be embarrassing at 40 for them. For me, 18. said, you know, we're sitting there and then he just cut the tension with the knife. I stand there. And Mitch turns to me and he goes, you know what, King? He goes, the only reason we're even in this mess is because our dad's fucking your mom. I laughed at that in my truck to this day 20 years later. And we just carried on after that. And that seems how it always went with Willis. You know, just a couple weeks ago, he said, when he was just whispering that, he said, you always got to take time to have a laugh. You know, no matter what was going on, we got tons of shit and this and that. But it was just about learning. He just wanted us to learn a quick lesson and figure out how to do it and move on. And anyways, I just wanted to say that story because with everything with Mitch and Billy and all that, it always makes me laugh, that one. Anyways, like I said, I didn't write anything down, so I was just going to wing it here. But so, like I said, when I was a little boy and Bill came into my life, we had lived in town and you know, I didn't really know anything about the farm and all that type of stuff. And, you know, Bill was my stepfather, but it never really seemed like that. Right from the get-go, he did everything he could to, because we didn't know back then what things were going to turn out, and he just wanted me to have good experiences. And, you know, so I remember one of the first times him and I got to hang out by ourselves, he was still living out of town, we were living in town, and we were just hanging out, and Mom had this old blue car, and he took me fishing up at Cutbank, and we went down some old dirt trail, and we rallied that car. We had all 4 tires. I don't know if you knew eventually he was going to buy Mom a new car. Yeah. It was one of my core memories of just. So it's no wonder that there's a pile of vehicles that me and the boys have rolled over the years. And he always wanted to have fun and wanted to have experiences. You know, when we moved out to the farm there that summer, I don't really know how to explain it, but something real special happens out there, and everything that I've got that's worth it now has come from that man and that place. Everything I use to make a living and look after my family, the way I conduct myself, is a direct result of Bill and everything he's done for me in that, what we learned on the farm, all those experiences. By the time I got there, Troy and the boys had already done all the heavy lifting. The land was clean, all the rocks were piled, and I sure appreciate it. Every time even now when I drive by them piles, I think, oh man, those are good boys. And you know, when there was when I was in the early teens, there was an old timer, his name was Rolly. He was an old retired welder. I know some of you guys know him. Rolly, he was staying out there. And this was when I was just a little boy. We were still breaking horses and doing all this and that. We had this stud horse and we had put him in the corral and we were trying to figure out a watering system for him. There's a dugout kind of up on the bank there. And they were trying to do some siphoning deal so it would automatically fill up this trough or whatever. And I was just a little kid, so I was just playing around and whatever. They built this rickety raft out of 2 45-gallon drums and a pallet, and then a bunch of hay wire and ratchet straps for a float, and then they nailed 2 6x10 planks together for a pole. And Bill he's going to get on this and ride this thing, and Rolly's going to push him out, and he's going to fish this line out of the bottom of the dugout. That's the plan anyway. And while they're doing that, they're building that, I had my own plan. And on the top side of the bank, I went and piled up a bunch of those roots and rocks the boys had piled, and I got a great big pile on the bank of these boulders and these big lumps of mud that I'm gonna huck over the bank once he gets on the water. We're gonna pile it up, and they're working on it, and I probably gets him out on the deal there, and he's he's got his boots and everything on, and I come up out of the grass with this great big with a lump of mud, and he looks at me, and he doesn't start yelling, he's just calm, and he said, "Okay, my boy, there's two ways that this is gonna go." He says, "One way, you're gonna put that rock down, you're gonna come back around and give Rolly a hand." He said, "The other way is gonna end up in a fucking wreck." And I thought to myself, you know, I've gotten plenty of lickings uptown now, and I'm sure I'm gonna get plenty more, but this one's gonna be worth it. I started to, and he's not a big swimmer, like he can survive, that's about it. And he didn't fall off or anything, but Rolly was trying to, and then I'm throwing him, and then he goes to Rolly, "Rolly, get a fucking switch." That's what he called a willow. Rolly had to choose between abandoning Bill on the raft and taking the switch. He gets the switch. He got the switch, but he's older than me, so I waited till the last minute before I could get my last rock, and he chased me. And I was still little, so I could get under that bottom wire of the fence quicker than he was. He only caught me once in the back of the leg, but it was worth it. And at the end, you know, when the dust settled, Bill wasn't mad. He would have took the opportunity to, I'm sure, if it was reversed, and I'd do it again today. And then another time, when we first got the blue Dodge, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that blue Dodge that we had. We took the camper, and I'd never been fishing, like really fishing before. So he bought me all this gear, he ordered stuff off the shopping channel, all this state-of-the-art stuff, and we were catch these fish. We put the camper on there, we went out by Chetwynd and went down some logging road into the Sekunka and went down the beach. And Mom and him and I stayed out there for a few days. And I was about 10 or something, I'd say. And he rigged me up with all this tackling gear, and I walked for days, for miles and miles up both sides of that river. I didn't get a single bite till sun up, till sundown for the whole weekend. I didn't get nothing. And he had already must have had it planned. He said, "Don't worry, we're going to get something before we go home." So he went into the truck, and he had a couple of old sticks of TNT that he must have put aside for a little job somewhere. And he said, "Make these deals here on the rock. I'm going to throw them in over here, and you're going to be down there with the net. Sit back, we're going to get some fish." And he threw them, a couple of those deals in the water there, and he was right. We got some fish. I got as many as I could get in that net, and it really made my day, you know. You'd probably get thrown in jail for that now, I'm sure. It really meant a lot to me. Still right now that I said that, eh? Yeah. Anyway, we used up all the TNT in case anybody's wondering. But, you know, and then there's always things like, you always wanted to go out of your way to make sure you were experiencing life, you know, to the fullest, and always guiding me, and he almost seemed like he'd push you off a cliff, but he'd guide you all the way down, just to make sure you knew how to land on your feet. And I never would have made it through what I've been through too, without what Willis taught me. And I was actually just talking about this with my friend, Garrett Goldman, a young guy from Ayers here that I grew up with. He's actually grew up just down the road here. When we were teenagers, we were 13 or 14, when we lived in the motel, there used to be a video store in town called Wildcat Video right down over there. And we'd walk down there to get some videos one night, around 10 or 11 or something. When we were coming back home, the Windsor Hotel was still there on the corner, and a couple guys, 4 guys came out to the bar there, older guys, grown men. and they were drunk, and we started picking on us, and ended up taking some of our stuff and whatever. And I was scared. I was terrified for you know. We went home, and Bill was sleeping, and I didn't even finish telling the story. He already had his boots laced up, and he said, "Get the truck, please. We're gonna go get your stuff back." And before then, I hadn't really had any kind of altercations or anything like that in my life or whatever. I was pretty scared. And Derek, he seemed excited. I think he's here somewhere. Anyway, we jumped in the Dodge and we pulled down the street there. We stopped right in the middle of the street and we jumped out of the truck. And before we even got out, he had all four of those guys laid on the ground. And then he called us over and we ended up hanging a licking on these boys and getting my stuff back, chasing them out of there. And I remember, I never, at that point in my life, I don't think I ever been so scared in my life in a situation like that. And when I went through that with Bill, I never, after that moment, I always felt safe with him. Not just in that kind of situation, just in any situation, in anything. It wouldn't matter what we were doing or where we were, if we were stranded in Alaska or on the streets of Detroit or wherever, we would have been okay. And I had no, I don't know, I never felt so just looked after. Like, you know, like, I don't know, it's hard to put into words, but after that, we, you know, everything was a learning lesson. Everything was a learning lesson. And we were driving in the truck later after that, and we were talking about, you brought it up, and I told him, I said, you know, I was terrified. I was asking, like, because at that point I didn't really know that side of Bill or whatever. Like, he's fearless, absolutely fearless and confident, and just a, you know. But anyway, I was talking to him, and I said I never been so scared. And he said, well, yeah, that's natural. He goes, you know, the confidence that'll come with experience. But he goes, the most important thing, he goes, it's easier to lick your wounds after getting a licking than living with yourself and running away from one. And that's true. And unfortunately, I've had to use that more times than I can think of now. I've got plenty of lickings, and I'm okay with it. But anyway, that one, Derek and I were just talking about that here not too long ago, so I just wanted to share that. And, you know, and just the impact that I don't even have the words to express it. The Bill and Troy and Mitch and Billy and Dana and Bob are about the finest role models a little boy could have. Priceless, really, and that's good because you won't be getting a check. But I didn't know it back then, and nobody knew it, that I was going to need that in my life. And it sure served me well. Everything that I do in my life today is based on the education I got from Willis. If I had never spent a day in school, it wouldn't have made a difference to me now, which isn't advice. I'm just saying, everything I used to run my life today is a direct result of the impact Willis and his boys have had on my life. And by the examples they've set that I try and follow. And I never thank you guys for that, David, Troy, and Bob. And I want you to know I appreciate it. Anyways, I just wanted to come up here and say a few words about my father, Willis Shore, the greatest man I've ever known.
I whispered in Kane's ear, Bill was proud of Kane. I am too. There's friendships in life and generational friendships that people have. And our next presenter, speaker, Ben Sawchuk, is one of those people that has always been around Bill. If you'd come up, Ben. He's a man that most of us know and love and build love. Here he is, Ben Sawchuk.
Well, what can I say? name is Ben Sauter, my initials are BS. And in loving memory of my old buddy, his initials were BS. We met 70 years ago on the streets of Dawson Creek. Just funny about it. So I'm walking down the street with a gallon of wine in my hand, a top coat, because I just came from Edmonton over to ducktail hair, looked like I'm from Mars. Bill and his friend were walking by the Wings restaurant, I think it was. And I said, howdy, you guys want a drink? He said, sure. So I passed him my gallon of wine and we had a few drinks. And I never remembered that ever. I didn't remember how we met. So one day I said, how the hell did we ever meet? He says, well, you had that gallon of wine. So about 6 months, 8 months later, we met again on the rig and then we on a pipeline, BC Marine. So we were friends for 70 years. And our initials are the same. He's the best storyteller in the world. Our initials are BS, and guess what? When I got married in 1960 to Viviana Loisel, he was my best man. Then we bought 3/4 of the ranch that you still have today, all that land, at Buffalo Creek. And I had a trailer across the road and he was the other side of the road. Nicky Markin was the welder. There was 3 of us. We bought those 3/4 for $3,300, $1,100 a piece. And then we bought Nicky out. And then I sold to Bill, I think 4 years later or something, and he stayed there. And I worked for Loisel Transport for 10 years, and then I left for Prince George and came back and started for a real estate company and insurance companies. But anyways, we're talking about Wee Willie. So we have a lot of experiences. I remember talking about being a fighter. Man, he was the best there was. I don't know, some of you people might remember Steve McNeely. He was the toughest guy in the Peace River, big chuck wagon guy at Rolla, BC. Got into a fight at the dance hall there, and they were punching each other for, I don't know, I swear for 10, 15 minutes. Steve McNeely said, God, kid, you're a hell of a good boxer. Let's go ahead and have a drink. And they went fighting. And then I remember going to the South Dawson Hall, and that's when the microwaves were being built. Iron workers were in town, and they were terrible fighters, and they had knives and stuff. We put our backs to the wall. I don't know what happened. We got into a fight, but then we went outside. And I learned if there were to be kickboxing as a world, I'd have been a world champion. Because when I was 15, I had my teeth kicked out, ribs broken, and me and my buddy, we got a punching bag. We started practicing kicking the punching bag. So, anyways, this Ironman that was really tough. We went outside, and Bill's standing on the side to make sure I don't get hurt. This guy punched me once, and I went back, and I said to him, I'm sorry, I apologize. I just want to get his attention. So he relaxed, dropped his arms. I kicked at him, my shoe flew up in the air. And then he said, wait till I tie my shoe up. Anyways, we had a lot of fun, and the last day that when I seen him during the fall fair, I went up to see him, right? And sitting there, and he's whispering, and then Cheryl says, why don't you come again tomorrow? He wants to tell you some more stories, eh? So we exchanged quite a few stories, and I'll tell you the stories that I could tell you. I'd be here till midnight. If my grandson Benjamin was here, he'd say, don't get Papa tell stories because you'll be here till midnight, right? And yeah. Oh, one more thing. We started a company up called BS Enterprises. Guess what? Revenue Canada honored us, right? And Troy, your dad says to the guy, why are you on? He said, well, the next was BS, why would you on? And then he's always like full of tricks. So I come home one night, Viviana and I, and there's a billy goat there. And the son of a bitch is charging and trying to hit me. I open the door of the back car, run through there, and of course I phone him. Did you send this billy goat? No, was there a billy goat there? So there was always lots of fun and tricks. And the other thing was, I gotta remember the story about going pipelining. So I was working on the rigs in BC Marine, mile 60 I think it was. A buddy of his named Cherokee, he was a side boom operator. He says, he needs a swamper. I said, okay. So at lunchtime, he'd get me practicing river weights, picking them up on boom. So in 1958, there was a job down east where your dad was, met your mom there. And he gets a hold of me, I don't know even how, but anyways, lots of work up here. So me and my buddy Lee, we went to Edmonton, I broke, stayed in my sister's place. They had a 45-gallon drum of wine, and it didn't have a tap, but it had a siphoning hose. And so we had a hell of a time to get it going. When we did get it going, we wouldn't quit, you know, until we were laying down. So my brother-in-law said, you gotta get out, get the hell out. So Lee and I get on the highway, and you know, some of you folks will know the Hingley and the Yorks. Anyways, so Lee and I, we hitchhiked, we got to Calgary, we're standing on the highway, and along comes this Buick, a 1956 Buick in 1958. Donnie McLaughlin worked at the Pardon Pit, somebody here. Roy York was in there, Dean Hingley, and who was the other guy? Oh, the Undertaker's son from Edson, Alberta, Nicky Martin. And they, what, Sawchuck, what are you doing? I said, we're just hitchhiking, we're going to Long Lac, Ontario to go pipelining, and Bill Shore's up there pipelining. Oh, I said, there's lots of work there. I had 35 bucks, Lee had 25. I said, you guys got any money, or no, I haven't got very much. Nicky said, I have a, in those days, I didn't even know they had a credit card, but his dad had a credit card, he took it with him. So we'd go to the service station, and tell the guy, charge for 2 tires and give us cash for the one. So that's how we got across the so I'm going to end the story. So anyway, we worked there for 6 months, and Bill and your mom came back, and what the hell was it? I had enough money to buy a 56 Lincoln. This is 58. I saved up $6,000. Paid for the car, and I was just telling Dean and I, we go to Buffalo and across the states. We get to Osaeus, just up, it was apricot time, and we're out of money. No money for the gas, so we started picking apricots for 4 days to make enough money to get to Dawson Creek. So a rich man came back broke. Anyways, I could talk to him midnight, so you don't want to get me telling stories, because me and Uncle Bill there, I was going Uncle Bill. But he was a better storyteller than me. Thank you.
Those men were legends, weren't they? We have Dana Pearson coming up, a special nephew, son. Special. And there they start, those short women.
Go get 'em, Bubbles!
All right, you guys hear me okay? So, first of all, my wife said when you get up here, picture everybody naked. So ladies, and some of you guys have really let yourselves go, I just put this right up front. So, it's really hard to put somebody's life down in a few paragraphs, but I'm going to take a crack at that. Betty was talking about back in the old days when they were fighting and drinking and everything else, and like we always said, Troy, that's when men were men and sheep were nervous. So, but you know, Bill was old school. He was one of those guys where his handshake really meant something, his word meant something, and he told us all to stand tall, look somebody in the eyes, and give him a firm handshake. So he really was one of those old school type guys, and he was like that through his whole life. He was brave, he was tough as nails, he was generous and he was charismatic, and he was funny as hell, the stories you hear about him. By all measures, any of us that knew him, he was a larger than life figure with a huge presence that filled up a room whenever he entered it. And whenever he was there, everybody turned to him and engaged with him. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you he was perfect. If you wanted to know that, you just had to ask him, right? Because he used to say to us all the time when we were kids, he'd go, of course I'm perfect, just ask me. And Bill never met a mirror that he didn't like. He was so funny because we'd all be going to school in grade 9, 10 and that, and he'd be in front of the mirror and he'd come out of the shower and he'd be in front of the mirror, have his pants on and no shirt on, and he'd stand there and he'd flex it. He'd be doing this for like 5 minutes. And he'd go, you got to do this, you should be doing this to build your muscles up. But it wasn't, he was just wanting to see himself, right? And that's a short trait. My mom is the only remaining of the 10 kids. We lost Uncle Arnold 10 days ago. So she's the only one remaining, but she's the same way. Can't go by a mirror, and I guess I inherited some of that as well, as Troy points out to me. He was the toughest man that I ever knew. He showed it to us every day with his actions. I saw a picture, Cheryl, of him on a bull. I think, was he in his 50s or 60s at that point? He was in his 60s riding a bull, right, at a rodeo. The other thing is he told me this story, and I'm sure a lot of you know that, but Troy mentioned he had a bear. He ended up getting a pet bear on the pipeline. Bill told me this a few years back. And the bear would follow him around everywhere, and then he'd get a little ornery in the morning, and he'd start, hitting Bill with his, and so Bill would haul off and drive him right in the face. And then the bear, of course, you can hit a bear all day long, it's not like, hitting a kid. But he would punch this bear in the face, and then the bear would sort of shake his head, and then he would nuzzle up to Bill, and it would be good for the day. And I said to my boys, Ash and Bill, and I said, you want to see a tough man? I said, who else starts their morning with punching a bear in the face? It doesn't happen. And he was tough guy. He was the most disciplined person I ever knew. Kane said something which is very true. Everything I am today is because of what he taught me. He was unflinching in his beliefs. If he believed something to his core, he wouldn't compromise that for anybody. It didn't matter if it was your kids or anybody. He stuck to what he believed in. He had a great sense of humor. He loved stirring up shit and encouraged us, everybody around him, to do the same. He loved it when we did that. Troy mentioned his dad jokes. Troy spared you telling you the jokes, but I'm going to tell him. He had 3 classics, and every time he told them, we would just about throw up. But we ended up telling our kids that because all of our boys know this as well. Our kids. One classic was, "What did one coffin say to the other coffin?" Is that you, coffin? Get off the stove, Granny, you're too old to ride the range. And what did the big cigarette say to the little cigarette? You're too young to smoke. And he told those all the time, and they were awful jokes, but we ended up telling our kids. Troy mentioned about his tardiness, which is a polite way to say, the Shores were pretty well late, except his work, like you said, he wasn't ever late for his work. It drove Cheryl around the bend because he was constantly late for something. We used to laugh, Troy and I tried to say, well, Bill's going to be down here Tuesday, and we'd go, which Tuesday? Next week, 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now? And you never knew, so you couldn't plan. And again, he wasn't a lazy person, just the opposite, but he always tried to squeeze something in before he left. I got to fix this, I got to do that. And then, of course, it's too late. The story Troy and I still love is that he had his school reunion, right, in Saskatchewan? Family reunion. And I think it started on a Friday night or Saturday? It started on a Friday night and was ending Sunday at 5 o'clock. He pulled in at just after 5 on Sunday. Completely missed it, the whole thing. And my wife came up with a saying, she says, a day late and $1 short. So that was, he was perpetually late for something. It became something we all laughed about quite a bit. So I'm getting near the end here. I think his greatest legacy, myself, is the people's lives that he changed and influenced. In addition to raising his own 3 boys, Billy, Troy, Mitch, he took in and raised Ronnie Shore for a period. Me, when I was 13, I went up there, and Lauren Smith, who we lost a long time ago, and Kane, and then a host of other people along the way, Dale Lapine and Cousin Todd, and on, Bob and Grant, and everybody else that he would, benefit from his teachings and directions. He passed along every bit of knowledge and experience he could with everybody, all of us, everybody he worked with, pipeline jobs, nieces, nephews, grandkids, and friends. And so this is the sucky part. Lastly, I want to say we all leave a footprint when we go of who we were, who we loved, and who loved us, and whose life we changed. Bill left a big footprint and impacted many people's lives, and we'll always remember him for it.
Gail Stevens up, my niece from Saskatchewan. And your mom is Gladys.
Yeah, so, yeah, so my mom is Gladys, Bill's best looking sister.
Oh. My word, now.
Yeah. So next time I'm going first because so many people have taken bits of my tenure. So, you know, we talked about being procrastinating, right? So I started writing this about 3 times, and I couldn't get it finished. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with bits of going through my head, and I got up last night at 2 o'clock, went to the bathroom, and finished writing it. So I always thought that I wouldn't get emotional. Stop that, eh? I felt like I was the lucky one because the Shores and the Stevenses really melded well together. And often the Shores came and stayed with the Stevenses. And I never felt that there was ever a time that there was 2 separate families. We were always just one big family. And the Shores came and stayed with the Stevenses, and it was just so much of that. And Uncle Bill came and he stayed with Mom and went to school. He was like, I don't know, 7 years old, and Mom was teaching school. And he came and he stayed with Mom, and Mom would tell the story about being in the schoolhouse. And she just wanted to kill the little bastard because he would go and get the horse with one of his friends and then ride the horse through the school, and then it was like, oh my God, she couldn't take control of this kid, and they would be like, oh, you're a bad teacher. She felt like she was a bad teacher because she couldn't even take control over her own brother. Oh, he was, yeah, and you know, he hated school, but he was just a mischievous little guy, and he was a big adventurer. Like, he just loved life, and he just was this big adventurer who wanted to live life daily, kind of thing. And then, you know, he was just full of shenanigans, and he spent a lot of time. He spent a lot of time with Mom and Dad and stuff. And my dad actually had the first DC9 cat in Saskatchewan. And I think that's for Uncle Bill. He got that feeling for cats and stuff, and he loved that. And it kind of came, it was a circle of life, right? So he saw my dad doing that, and he is a real hands-on kind of guy. He's always had that. You know, he didn't like school, but he was a smart man, and always felt like there was nothing that he couldn't do. And he felt like there was nothing he couldn't do either, right? And he just went full force, and he taught so many of the family the whole thing of how to live life and live life fully. And he just, you know, Dawn was there, so many of the family was there. And when I moved to Grand Prairie, I felt like he was my connection to family. You know, I moved from you know, Grand Prairie, or I moved to Grand Prairie, and there was no family around but Bill and Marlene. And there was so often that I went there, and it was, going there, it was, the house was so full of love, and so full of pranksters. You couldn't even feel like you could just turn around and you would be okay. You always had to be like this. Because you never knew what was going to happen, you know. And, you know, like, but they were just so full of love. You knew that you were loved no matter what happened. But, you know, there was one time, and the laughter was enormous, right? And so Bill and Marlene, they had called me up and said, we're going to go skiing. And so I went there, and there was a motorhome, and we all jumped in this motorhome, and we went to, at that time it was Zazu, so it was Powder King, right? And so we get there, and there's a whole bunch of us, there's probably about 12 of us in the motorhome. And we get there, and, you know, there's green grass, carpet, and, I mean, and they set it all out. I think the only thing they didn't have was one of those blow-up palm trees. I don't know, Diane, you were probably there too. And then going back home, you know, everybody's been drinking, and then we got stopped by the cops. And why they stopped us is because the cop couldn't figure out why the motorhome was like this. You know? Yeah, we were two-stepping in the motorhome. And Bill's driving. And so the cop comes on, and we're still two-stepping. And, you know, and so Bill talks to the cop, and he's like, we were all drinking, you know, and he didn't get a ticket because Bill wasn't drinking. He still allowed us to drink on there, still allowed us to two-step on there. Some of us had to sit down, we all couldn't two-step at the same time, you know, and we still partied like crazy on that bus. And Bill just kept it on the road and hung on there and talked to that cop, and that, you know, and off we went home, two-stepping all the way like this, you know, and that bus or that route home just kept going and kept going, you know, and Bill just took care of things, right? He just took care of things, and he took care of people, you know, and he just did. And, you know, there was things, so Grandma Shore, Bill's mom, was a teacher. My mom was a teacher. Sean is a teacher. My brother-in-law was a teacher. Uncle Bill was a teacher. He wasn't a formal teacher, but he was a teacher. He taught people. I saw Mitch teaching. You know, I see people teaching. Troy was teaching. Every time Troy opens his mouth, he's teaching people about something. We've got this family of teachers, and I love that. I love hearing people teach. I love that, you know, we share our knowledge, and that we have this thing about, you know, just wanting to share with people and help people with that. You know, and that's a Shore trait that we want to help, and Bill was a big helper. And I love the fact that with the Shores, you know, we keep helping each other, we keep wanting to make life better. Bill helped everybody, you know, like if I drove to the farm and he saw that my tires in my truck were bad, come on Gail, we're going to town. And he would buy all these tires for me, you know, and that's just the way it was. You know, he knew I didn't have the money. I don't know how much money he had at the time either, you know, but come on, I'm making sure you're safe. And that's the way it was. But he did it for so many other people all the time too. He just wanted to make sure that you were safe. But he always made sure that you understood about things as well, you know. And he just wanted to make sure that, you know, you understood that you were loved. I can't even read. I don't know why I'm looking at it. I'm so teary, I can't even read. It was. I kind of laughed at Bob yesterday because he was talking about Bill being so stubborn and about the stud horse. And Bill had, if that stud horse isn't going to pan out, he says, I'm gonna butcher that horse. And, you know, and sure enough, you know, he butchered the horse. And I always laughed because I remember going there one day and Bill had this big bag and he goes, you want some Ted meat? You want Ted jerky? Because I fed Ted for however long and now Ted's gonna feed me that damn horse. And he would, he was just like stubborn as hell. He made up his mind he was gonna do something and that's the way it was and that's the, you know, he was good, you know, and he would, he's like, I fed Ted and Ted's gonna feed me here, you want some? And he was funny as hell all the time, you know. And he was always, you know, playing pranks. And so, you know, so then there was, you know, life moves on and his circumstances changed and Marlene moved on, you know, to southern BC and then Bill found himself alone and that's when he started coming to Grand Prairie more often. And he started hanging out at our place and I had, you know, my kids were little. And he started hanging out with us, coming for weekends, and then he, you know, started working around the area and spending more time. And he'd come for 3 months, 6 months, you know, like, I spent a lot of time at our house. And he'd take Russell, you know, working with him, fixing cat with, you know, and stuff like that. And he just spent a lot of time. And so, and with Bill, it always turned out to be, he loved to dance, right? So it always turned out to be a good dancing, you know. And so one night he says, you know, let's go out and dance, okay? And I'm like, okay, I love to dance, so yeah, let's go out and dance. So we go out and we go to the bar, we dance, we're coming home and we see this pink house and there's lots of activity going on there. And he goes, what's going on there? And I said, we don't want to go there, it's a biker bar, or a biker after hours bar kind of thing. And he goes, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, that's a biker with, you know, 2 letters that we don't necessarily want to hang out kind of place bar, you know, after hours bar. We don't want to go there. And well, that's, okay, that's like, ding, 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 we're going there. I'm like, no, we're not. And he was like, yeah, parks it, jumps out, come on, we're going. And we walk up there, and I'm like, oh my God. So the door, this is, you know, the door is a solid steel slab, welded on a steel frame. And he pounds on it, and there's like a little slot, opens up, and he goes, hey, what's a cowboy got to do to get a drink? And I'm like, shaking aside. And then all of a sudden it closes, not a word, right? It closes, all of a sudden it opens up again, and nothing, somebody else looks there, doesn't say a word, closes, all of a sudden, creak, it opens up, and they're like, come on in. And I'm like, oh my God, and so here it is. A whole biker city kind of thing, and they're like, come on in, and he just walks in. The old Bill Shore walks in, struts in there, howdy. And I'm like, oh my God, for one thing, I don't really want to be here, but you know, like, I'm actually, you know, probably only in my 30s, and come on, you know, Saskatchewan farm girl, and pretty naive, and Bill just, adventure, that's a ding, 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 ding in his eyes. Well, you know, it was actually, I didn't leave his side really very much, but he was in his element. He was like, going around talking to people and how do we get this drink? And you have to understand that right over here, there was this solid steel room that was, you know, about 8 by 8, and there was a big steel window that opens up, and you guys, like, everything you want, everything that you can imagine was in there, that if you wanted, you could buy in there. And I was just like, what the hell kind of place is this? And one that the cops would never get into is what I was told. And, you know, and Bill was just like, well, this is quite the place, boys. So we had, you know, a few drinks in there, and he was like, well, this is quite the experience. He says, thanks a lot. And then, you know, after a couple of hours, off we go, and he says, that's a nice place. I think I might go back there someday. You know, and that was just like one of the experiences that, you know, we had with him kind of thing. And he would just kind of, he just loved that kind of stuff, right? He just absolutely loved those kinds of things. He wanted to experience life, you know, and it's like, that was a little much for me, but I went with him. You know, but you know, I taught my kids a lot of things, you know, like he taught a lot of people, like Ken was saying, he taught a lot of things. In fact, he meant so much to my children that Russ named his youngest daughter after Bill. So, Russ, can you show Cassie Morley? It was so funny one day, Riley, who's Russ's oldest wife, you know, so she brings Cassie up and says, come on, Cassie, come on, this is Uncle Bill, this is who you're named after, look. And then when Uncle Bill was told that Cassie was named after him, so the only time I ever saw him speechless, the only time he was like, you know, and he was just like, for a few seconds, he was speechless, you know. You know, it really meant a lot to him, and he meant a lot to us. You know, and then when Cheryl, you know, came into his life, it was a really important time in his life. You know, it changed him. You changed him. He, you know, like, times, you know, when Bill left home at a very, very young age. And so, you know, you gotta be tough. You gotta be strong. You gotta be, you know, you have to be adventurous, and then you have all of, it was a tough time. You gotta be, you know, and, you know, at that time there was the war, after the war, all of those things, right? And it was the frontier. So you had to be that stoic, strong man who had to go out and make a living, and what, he had the 31 cents in his pocket or 10 cents or whatever. You know, and he had to be that guy who had to go out and be and take care of you, right? And so he did. He took care of himself. He took care of Marlene. He took care of his family. He took care of all of those things. And now his family was gone or grown, and there was a different time in his life. And then he met Cheryl. So then it's a different time now, and he could become a different man. And he could become this man who now could relax and could become a softer man, and could become a man who could be taken care of. And you did. You took care of him. And I think, you know, and he would always say, Cheryl, she sure treats me good. She treats me good. and he would say I was a lucky man. I had a good woman who gave me, 3 boys, and I got a good woman who treats me good now. And he would tell me that probably a dozen times, if not more. And he really appreciated that, Cheryl. He really did. And he loved you. He would talk about he loved Marley, but he loved you, and he appreciated the fact that you treated him well. And you treated him, you gave him that love that I don't think he ever really felt truly taken care of until you came along, and you gave him that. You gave him that so he really felt like nurtured. And he really appreciated that. And we appreciate that you gave him that he could experience that in his lifetime. Bill had this, I remember somebody saying, one time that, my mom's, your mom's family's kind of like a hillbillies. Oh yeah. And I was like, hillbillies? Huh, that's interesting, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe. They lived up in the hills and all that kind of stuff. And I remember saying that to Troy, and Troy's, he says, that's the good part, and that's the fun part. And I remember thinking about that, and it's like, that's the plan, the part that we all stick together, that you can call upon each other and we can help each other, and no matter what, we are together. We stick together and we appreciate each other. We help each other no matter what. And we really appreciate each other for who we are. We are family. And we are the family that sticks together. I mean, everybody coming from here, from far and wide, and that we appreciate Bill. And if Bill isn't a clan leader, I don't know who is. Like seriously. And I will miss him dearly. He played a huge part in my life. Bill and Cheryl came to Ukrainian Christmases at my house, 30 years, and I can't even tell you how much time we spent together over the years. He's played a huge part in my life, huge. And I really appreciate the fact that I got to know him that well. Billy, Mitch, and Bill spent enormous amounts of time in my life because they were pipelining and stayed at my house for years, absolute years, and spent so much time in my life, and I so appreciate that. And I will miss them all dearly.
Well, Gail was here yesterday too, and she saw I think you were here, weren't you, Gail? She just saw the Shores putting up the chairs. It's wonderful. They're a really good family. I've got to know many of them this week and over the last month and over the many years too. I'm calling Ash Pearson to come on up and read a letter. Ash is Dana's son. He's also a musician. Heavy metal guy.
A magician.
He's going to pull some tricks.
For my first trick, I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. right, thank you. Good night. I'm actually going to be speaking for two people today. I'll be speaking for myself. I'll be speaking for my grandmother, Eleanor, who is Bill's sister, and she couldn't be here today. And she's now the last of the siblings as well. And that's my grandma, so my father's mother. My father, by the way, is Dana. Yes, I will admit that. So I'll say Eleanor's part first, and then I'll say my bits after. Eleanor is she's a broadcaster and a poet as well, so she wanted me to read a poem of hers, which you would never normally ever catch me reading a poem in front of a room full of people, so I'm doing this for her, okay? So it's one that she wrote. It's called Journey. She's dedicating this to Bill. Okay. When I was young, I used to sit in the middle of a fresh plowed field on a big white rock that my daddy dug from the middle of his dreams. And I'd trace the flight of the yellow plane as it soared to places I had never been. And my mind would fill with people things from the radio and the magazines. Then I'd slip down from that big white rock, slapping dust from my jeans, and follow the furrow, barefoot warm, to the hill where the old house leans. Supper simmered in the pot on top of the old wood range, and Mom, she filled our bowls to brimming and set them in each place. But I left the folks with the dream-gnarled hands in search of a dream of my own. At the old line fence, I turned and waved, swallowed hard, and then went on alone. For a man must sow before he reaps, and restless the boy to be a man. And a fence has barbs on both sides of the wire when the world's in reach of your hand. Last paragraph. Now the rock looks smaller than it did back then, weather-worn in memory's mind, and the land stretches out where no man walks, and the sky is a promise of time. Eleanor Shore Pearson. And I was talking to Eleanor, and I thought it would be good to acknowledge her brothers and sisters, who many of you are probably spawned from. And so I think, I feel, it's 10 brothers and sisters, and there's one of them left, right? And so we're all part of that bigger legacy of the Shores. So Bill's mother and father, and if I get any of this wrong, you just like yell it out and correct me. But Bill's mother, Mary Olive Martin, born in 1897 in Killarney, Manitoba. She was a school teacher and a gentle soul. The father, Bill's father, John William Shore, born in 1889 in the Northwest Territories near Kenistano. He was a farmer, is that right? Farmer, environmentalist, entertainer, storyteller, athlete, and much more. And so all the siblings, from the oldest to the youngest. Jean, born in 1919, was a caregiver. Samuel, born in 1921, he fought in World War II, was a Royal Canadian Signal Corps, first Canadian into Amsterdam to free Holland, rode in with the Dutch Underground. He has medals in the Dutch Underground Museum in Amsterdam, big honor. Gladys, born in 1923, she was a school teacher. Arnold, born in 1924, very successful farmer, who we just, as you know, lost a couple weeks ago, so this one's up, that's for you, Arnold. John Herman, Jack, born in 1926, he was a machine operator, Hamilton Steel Mills. Louise, born in 1928, she was a seamstress. Hugo Martin, born in 1930, was in the Korean War, 1950 to 53, Petty Officer, Royal Canadian Navy. Willis Bill Morley Shore, 1933, supervisor of gas pipeline, and so much more. Eleanor Shore, 1936, she was a poet, writer, and CBC broadcaster. Eileen, 1937, she was born. She was a CN railway stenographer and a stand-up comedian, it says here, as well. So that's the Shore brothers and sisters, man, and time marches on, and I'll read this bit that Eleanor also wanted me to say, and then I'll say my part, and then I'll get out of here. My brother Bill was truly an exceptional man. I was and am ever grateful that he was there with love and direction for my son Dana, helping him to become a smart, strong, caring man of whom I am so proud. I have great memories of Bill throughout the years. Bill, Eileen, and I grew up in Saskatchewan on the family farm, which bordered a beautiful summer resort. Brother Bill was always close at hand for Eileen and I. He protected us, and I always felt his love and his caring. I last saw my brother Bill in June. I will cherish us singing together Merle Haggard's Mama Tried, and I am so thankful for that memory. I love and miss you, my brother, Eleanor. So that's from Ellie. And now, for my part, I'll just tell a couple short stories. I'm 38 years old, so I guess I met Bill on that softening, like you mentioned, Gail, softening in his character, after meeting Cheryl and all those nice things. But I visited Dawson a few times and spent a good amount of time with Bill for weeks on end type of thing. There's a few funny things I just wanted to mention. We're talking about exercising and stuff like that. This is maybe like 14 years ago or something like that. He showed me how to do a one-handed push-up. I couldn't do a one-handed push-up like in my 20s, and he was, I think, 78 years old, and he was still crushing one-handed push-ups. And I was like, very impressed. Very, very impressive feat of strength. He was strong until his final days, I have an affinity for Japan, and so he's been there before. He was telling me a story, like my dad was mentioning about punching bears in the face and stuff like that. This is an animal-related thing. In Japan, they have sacred deer in some of the parks there, and Bill was over there for business, so he was getting sort of shown around by some of the Japanese businessmen there. They go to a park. And one of these deers was harassing a woman, kind of like biting at her, biting her purse and biting her butt and stuff like that. And so Bill took this sacred deer by the antlers and twisted his head and then wrestled him to the ground. And that was the Japanese that was a big no-no. They did not like that at all. They're like, you can't do that. And then Bill thought he was right, and he was right. This deer needed to be taught a lesson, And so they're like, oh, no, you have to leave now. So he got kicked out of this park, and that was his story, and I love that. That was a good one. When Bill was going through his cancer treatments, whenever that was, maybe about 13 years ago or something like that, he was spending time in Vancouver, I asked him if he was afraid of dying, and he was, pretty plainly was just like, I'm not afraid, he's not afraid of a fight, and he wasn't afraid of his own mortal coil, which was a very admirable thing, and he was just talking about just the nature of it, He's seen the life cycle of animals and stuff like that, and he's seen the cycle of the seasons and everything on the farm, so I think it's just one of those things he intuitively understood. It's like a natural part of life, and so it was just one of those, I think, maybe grounding sort of, it was a grounding thing to hear him say that, and so it's just, now he's gone, it is what it is. It's not like he wouldn't want us to be sad, but it's just one of those facts of life that he was just telling me, hey, just don't worry, don't be afraid. It happens to all of us, and it's part of life. And this one I really liked. So there was an oil company who was trying to buy a part of his land to go through his gravel pit they wanted to build or something like that. And so he basically said, he's like, Ashley, take a letter. And I was like, okay. And so I get behind his computer, and then he goes, Dear bastards. Let's try to whom it may concern. Let's start with that. He goes, yeah, that's fine, sure, if you want. I'm like, what? He's like, you want to come build on my land or whatever, you got to pay me $1,000 per square foot of my gravel, you sons of bitches. I'm like, 1,000 per square foot, with kind regards. And he goes, and I'm like, are you done? He's like, yeah, I'm done. Signed, Willis Shore. Now fuck off. And, how about I graciously await your response. He's like, yeah, that's fine. We got through that one. All right. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, you know, my dad didn't mention it because it's probably a personal thing or whatever, but Bill raised my dad. You know, Bill ostensibly is my dad's dad. You know, he's actually his uncle, but he raised my dad. I mean, what age were you there from, Dad?
13.
Until?
They threw me out.
Until, so 1 week. But Bill was there for my father when he needed a father figure the most in his life. You know, hitting puberty, you're getting your identity, you're starting to become a person and everything like that. And you know, he raised him. He raised him to be a strong, thoughtful, caring, hardworking, tough, loving, all the good things, you know. He instilled that into my father. And then, so I learned those lessons, you know, from my dad. And so in that sense, I feel very close to Bill, and as I'm sure all of us do in our own way. So I'm proud to be part of the thread and the fabric of this family, and Bill was definitely a big piece of that, so we love him, and we're going to miss him very much, so thanks for having me.
I'm going to read a note that was sent this morning from Dave Shore, Hugo's grandson, Bill's brother. Thanks. It's really hard not to go. Share this with Cheryl if you get a chance. Oops. When I met up with Bill, he reminded me of Grandpa Shore, and at that time I was at a crossroad in my life. And through his counsel, he brought clarity and helped me see what was truly important in my life. I don't know where I'd be today without him. I'm going to miss him. It's very touching. We have another letter that's going to be read from Skinny and Bruce York. If Dana would come up and do that. Thank you.
Act like popular man.
Yes. I think you forgot the first time.
So, a week ago, Troy, Carla, Shelley, me, and Kyle were at Skinny and Bruce York's, Skinny's 90th birthday. And Skinny wanted to send a letter up, wanted me to read it, just because she said most of the other Shores can't read. And, no, because there's a little message from Troy there, so he couldn't read it. But the Yorks have been friends with Bill and Marlene and the Shores forever. And here's her letter. She goes, "Hello everyone," because there's a big exclamation mark at the end of it. "You're gathered today," and by the way, I'm going to do the best I can because this is a writing and it's just atrocious, so it's hard to read. "You are gathered today to pay respects to our dear friend Bill Shore. I'm so sorry we couldn't attend. We have been friends with Bill for 65 years. He has left a large footprint on our family. Bill built the golf course with Bruce and Todd." That was down at Armstrong, the golf course. Sorry, I lost my place here. Yeah, we had an old D8, no-tilt blade on it, and Bill did a fantastic job. He was a magician on a cat. Bill stayed with us for 3 months. You can imagine the laughs we had. We went on several long trips with Bill and Marlene, went to Mazatlan, Mexico, and through 19 states. We were gone for 5 weeks and covered 12,000 miles. Bill, Bruce, and Marlene in the back, Barney, Bun, and I in the front. This was in 1962. We went to visit Elvis. They let us in, so I'm going to just stop here because she told me this full story and we've heard it over the years. They actually pulled up to the gates of Graceland and wanted to go in, and they wouldn't let them in, and they of course, you're not going to stop that cruise. So they kept saying, "We're Canadians, we're here, we got to see them." They let them in. Skinny told me this last week. They let them in, they went up to the house, and they wouldn't let them in the house. And out of the side door, Elvis came up. So he was right there. And he was dressed in a workman's outfit because he was getting into a van, and he was going incognito back into town, into Memphis. and they chased him down the road. And were waving at him and everything else and trying to get his attention, and he talked to them for a second as they were trying to get away from them. So that was kind of a cool story. Hang on, guys. Okay, let me just blow this up so I can actually read it. There we go. We took another trip with all the kids to Hawaii. Dana can tell you more. So back in, what was it, Troy, 76, 75, 14 of us went to Hawaii for a month. And so there was Bruce and Skinny and their kids. Darlene was with us, and me and Billy Troy mentioned, Darlene and Bill, and Bun and Marnie, and another family, and I can't remember who they were. They're related somehow to somebody. They weren't? Oh, I drank a lot back then, so it couldn't mean anything. But anyway, there was 14 of us, and we had a blast for a month, and had a really good time with all those folks, and Skinny and Bruce and their kids. Okay, so we wanted. Oh, sorry, we did that. It was our fortune to meet and spend so much time with your family. We send our deepest sympathy to the Shore family and Darlene's family. Our heart goes out to you, Troy, and your family. This past year and a half of being heartbreaking, we send you all our love to all of you. Skinny Bruce and family, X all. I think that means I'm supposed to hug and kiss you. So that was from New York.
Now we have a very special person coming up, Skylar. Skylar Shore, great-granddaughter of Bill. And I've got to lower this somehow. Where do you want it, Skylar? You can come right up here.
Yes, as you might know, I'm Skylar Shore, and I'm Bill's great-granddaughter. You're my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken, and I hung my head and cried. Grandpa is sunshine, one of our sunshines. He'll make us happy when skies are gray. He'll always know, dear, how much you love him. Please, Grandpa, you love us.
When I was walking across the parking lot, I found a real pearl. Here's your pearl.
Oh, carry me back to the lone prairie where the coyotes howl and the wind blows free. And when I die, you can bury me 'neath the western sky on the lone prairie. I'm a roving cowboy far away from home, far from the prairie where I used to roam, where the doggies wander and the wind blows free. Oh, my heart is yonder on the lone prairie. Oh, carry me back to the lone prairie, where the coyotes howl and the wind blows free. And when I die, you can bury me neath the western sky on the lone prairie.
Back a few months ago, I was headlining at a great big nightclub, and he put me up a couple of days early. I came in a couple of days early, and they put me up at what they call the Star Suite. Now here I am, headliner in one of the biggest nightclubs in the country, and I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning in this Star Suite, all by myself. Yeah, that's what I said, all. But I did what I've always done, man, to cheer myself up. I picked up my guitar, I sat down, I wrote me a little song. Now this is how it feels to be alone at the top of the hill, trying to figure out why. Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I can't wait to look in the mirror, 'cause I get better looking each day. To know me is to love me. I must be a hell of a man. Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble, but I'm doing the best that I can. I used to have a girlfriend, but I guess she just couldn't compete with all of these love-starved women who keep clamoring at my feet. Well, I probably could find me another, but I guess they're all in awe of me. Who cares? I never get lonesome, 'cause I treasure my own company. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble. You're perfect in every way. Can't wait to look in the mirror. Can't wait to look in the mirror. Help me out now, come on. I get better looking each day. To know me is to what? To know me is to love me. Must be a hell of a man. I must be a hell of a man. Oh Lord, it's hard. Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're doing what? We're doing the best that we can. I guess you could say I'm a loner, a cowboy outlaw, tough and proud. Well, I could have lots of friends if I wanted, but then I wouldn't stand out from the crowd. Some folks say that I'm egotistical. Hell, I don't even know what that means. I guess it has something to do with the way that I fill out my skin-tight blue jeans. Whoa, come on, where's all the kickers in here? Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. When you're perfect in every way. Can't wait to look in the mirror. I can't wait to look in the mirror, 'cause I get better looking. I get better looking each day. To know me is to what? To know me is to love me. Must be a hell of a man. Must be a hell of a man. Oh Lord, it's hard. it's hard to be humble. What are we doing? We're doing the best that we can. One more time, what are we doing? We're doing the best that we can. Give yourself a hand.
Their mark behind. I remember Daddy's hands, how they held my mama tight and patted my back for something done right. There are things that I've forgotten that I loved about the man, but I'll always remember the love in Daddy's hands. Till they bled, sacrificed unselfishly just to keep us all fed. If I could do things over, I'd live my life again and never take for granted the love in Daddy's hands. Daddy's hands were soft and kind when I was crying. Steel when I'd done wrong. Daddy's hands weren't always gentle, but I've come to understand there was always love in Daddy's hands. Daddy's hands were soft and kind when I was crying. Daddy's hands were hard as steel when I'd done wrong.
I just want to tell you the time will come when I can hear your voice or call your name, when I am slowly crossing up to the other side. It'll be alright, I had a wonderful life, so don't cry when I'm gone. You don't live this long without emotion, and I was lucky enough to feel them all. I got most of my freedom staring at the ocean. Oh, I did it all. Now I can stand tall. Don't cry when I'm gone. Hey, my love, don't cry when I'm gone. 'Cause I was always the hero in your eyes. I've been blessed enough to write you this one song, and you can carry on and make it go strong. Don't cry when I'm gone. I was given the gift to hear the wind blow. Saw most of the full moons as they rose. Caught the morning sunrise in my living room. I can see the color blue. Oh, and he carried me through. Don't cry when I'm gone. Being able to reach for the stars and grab me one. Achieving all the dreams and goals I know. So when you think of me, look up into the night. See the bright blue star, then I'll be in your eyes. Don't cry when I'm gone. Hey, my love, don't cry when I'm gone. 'Cause I was always the hero in your eyes. And I've been blessed enough to write you this one song. Then you can carry on. You can go out strong. Don't cry when I'm gone. Hey, my love, don't cry when I'm gone. 'Cause I was always the hero in your eyes. And I've been blessed enough to write you this one song. Now you can carry on. Go and do it strong. Don't cry when I'm gone.
When I think back on these times and the dreams we left behind, I'll be glad 'cause I was blessed to get to have you in my life. When I look back on these days, I'll look and see your face. You were right there for me. In my dreams I'll always see you soar above the sky. In my heart there'll always be a place for you for all my life. I'll keep a part of you with me, and everywhere I Tell me about the good old days. Sometimes it feels like this world's gone crazy. Grandpa, take me back to yesterday, when the line between right and wrong didn't seem so hazy. Did lovers really fall in love to stay, stand beside each other, come what may? Is promise really something people kept, not just something they would say? Families really bow their heads to pray, daddies really never go away. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Everything is changing fast. We call it progress, but I just don't know. And Grandpa, let's wander back into the past, then paint me the picture of long ago. Lovers really fall in love to stay, stand beside each other, come what may? Is promise really something people kept, not just something they would say and then forget? Families really bow their heads to pray, daddies really never go away. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Families really bow their heads to pray, daddies really never go
You know there's a light that glows by the front door. Don't forget the keys under the mat. When childhood stars shine, always stay humble and kind. Go to church 'cause your mama says to. Visit Grandpa every chance that you can. It won't be wasted time, always stay humble and kind. Hold the door, say please, say thank you. Don't steal, don't cheat, and don't lie. I know you got mountains to climb, but always stay humble and kind. When the dreams you're dreaming come
behalf of Cheryl and the entire Shore family, I want to thank you all for coming. I'm up here right now. But I want to say appreciate each other, stay and have lunch, and meet a friend again, and meet somebody you don't know, make them your friend. That was Bill. Love it all. This beer and wine.